Welcome back, everybody, to the Omniverse Comics Guide podcast. We are your Omniverse Comics Guide guys. I'm Eric. That's my pal, Dave. Dave.
Hi.
Happy New Year, pal. How are you?
I'm in 3D, dude. I'm in 3D. That's how happy I am.
So everything's just coming at you.
Look, it's real. I'm real. Whoa, look at that. It's like I'm an actual person.
How have your holidays been, pal?
Yeah, they've been pretty good, thanks, dude. Kind of quiet. Lots of geekery, lots of comic reading. That's not me saying it because we're on this show. It's literally how it's been. Catching up with friends, that a little bit too, that kind of thing, and hanging out with my sproglets. And my youngest really did like her Robin.
Nice. I was gonna ask, how did she like the Robin?
She loved the Robin. She got two, so we ended up doing a little face-off. Well, a booty off.
What did you learn during Christmas break? I learned how to twerk with Robin and my daddy. Okay.
That's when I get the call from the school every Christmas. How about you, man? What'd you get up to?
Pretty quiet. Same thing as you. Visited some friends, some family. Nothing too crazy. Caught up on some movies that I watch yearly during Christmas. Stuff that's just like that seasonal watch. Die Hard, Home Alone, Godfather, stuff like that. Yeah, Lord of the Rings trilogy. And read a lot of comics.
Yeah.
Some in preparation for perhaps it could have been for this episode. Maybe it didn't make it. But I was like, man, I'm just reading so many issues so quick that I'm like, this is the dream of just being at home with my dog sleeping on my lap.
Oh, imagine living like that, man.
Warm drink. These past 2 weeks have been pretty good for the most part. But no complaints. I'm excited. This is the episode that I kind of prep for all year round because the first time we did it, I completely botched my preparation for it.
Did you?
You remember? I didn't have a list.
Oh, it was
that
just
was
stuff
based
you read
on the calendar year per se. Right? It was just stuff I read in the calendar year, but not things that were released. So now I purposely prep and say, okay, make sure you've got at least 20 things to pick throughout that came out within the year, so you could talk about it at the end of the year. We're here. Ready.
That's it. For anyone who's not watched it before, we pick our 10 favorite collected edition releases. So it's not single issues, it's collected editions.
I like the rules that we can kind of stick by because it's easy to pick single issues that have come out within the year, right?
Yeah.
So
I saw a list that was a mix of trades and singles, and it just confused me because I'm like, how do you measure a part of a story to a full story? Like, what?
That's true. Very true. So to be more specific, it could be even omnis that have been reprinted, that have been released in the calendar year, things for the very first time that could be 50 years old, right? We got it in some type of new format, or stuff that has been released for the very first time, like a modern series could fall into that. So do you have a mix? I have a pretty good mix.
I have a decent mix, yes, I think.
Okay. Anything you got for a mailbag this week?
No, man, my mailbag is empty. How was yours? How's your sack?
Well, my mailbag, I actually got a mailbag to share with everybody this week. What? Woo! I said, let me share it for the first episode of the year. I got it a few weeks ago, admittedly, but I wanted to share it on this episode for a little New Year's somewhat celebration. So I'm always wearing a hat. I started off this time with it backwards. So my mailbag comes from, can you see that? Ghost Machine. Dude. Very, very cool.
Nice.
Very, very cool. So the kind folks at Ghost Machine, after our interviews with the gentlemen, Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch, and if you're interested in Red Coat and want to hear a little bit more about it, you can listen to our archive episodes of Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch with me and Dave. So they sent me this hat, and then, surprisingly, I didn't expect this at all, sent me a deluxe edition of Geiger.
That's beautiful.
Very, very nice. Signed. Let me see. I think there's a signature inside and a little sketch from Jeff Johns.
What did he draw it?
He put a little skeleton of what is supposed to be like Geiger's.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right, a little sketch there. And then, it's very cool. #1 variant copy of...
Oh, that's a nice cover as well. Oh, is that foil?
Very cool. That's a foil, foil cover. A variant of Geiger. Number 1 from, I think, the first run. Number 1 of Hyde Street.
Ooh.
All signed by Jeff, which is like, wow, it's crazy. And then there's the one shot of Ghost Machine that came out earlier in the year.
Nice.
And then as well, he sent me trades of Junkyard Joe and Geiger, which I'll likely share with people.
So,
very, very kind of everyone at Ghost Machine. A big shout out to Jeff Johns. Big shout out to Ryan Hitch, and Kat Kleiner, who really helped us. She really helped set up so much in our correspondence with her. She was great to work with. So looking forward to hopefully more. Nothing's booked yet interview-wise for 2025, but that just means anything can happen.
Yeah.
So
it's open season.
It's open. So thank you to Ghost Machine, Kat, Jeff. Back to my hat that I had on before. That one fits me a little funny right now. Dave.
Yes.
I know I wear hats like wigs. I have a perfectly fine head of hair, but I always keep a hat on. My wife and my mom get mad at me. Anyways, shall we begin the countdown?
Mm-hmm. It's your year to go first.
Okay. I have all the books I've actually read by my side.
Cool.
But there's one, my first pick, I don't have with me because I put it away, and it's a beast of a book. Wow. I should have looked up when the book finished its run, and I think it was 2021 pandemic time is when the book put out its final issue. Mm-hmm. But my number 10 pick for 2024 is Deadly Class Compendium. I have never read Deadly Class prior to. You gave the first 16 issues a 5-star review, which you don't hand out. Mm-hmm. You don't hand that out very easily. And you are also not a Rick Remender apologist like I can tend to be. I really like Rick Remender, even sometimes when his books aren't the best. I'm like, yeah, but it's got it. And so that really made me want to check out this book. Cool. And you know how we are with. Sorry, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, no, I was saying cool. I mean, I was curious to see if it held up throughout, because obviously you've read 4 times more than me.
I'll let you decide how you feel about it, but I read it in about a week and a bit, which is like 56 issues worth. There's a lot going on. The thing with books like that is it keeps you at the edge of your seat because anything can happen. The first 16 issues, so the main character and Rick Remender, by chance, we share the same birthday. So it starts off saying today's my birthday, February 6th, and my dream is to kill Ronald Reagan. Like that's the main character's dream in the book, right? So it takes you to this angsty place of indie rock music, alternative rock music. And for those who have or haven't read it, the main gist of the story is a bunch of either down on their luck kids or kids that come from crime dynasty families, basically, are brought to this secret school, almost like a school for potential John Wicks, to become assassins. And basically training a bunch of kids to become sociopaths. And it's, I think, in a lot of ways, I could be wrong, but I feel like Rick Remender, his work, especially his creator-owned stuff, feels like they're things he's learned about himself through therapy. He finds a way to put it into story form.
I think, sometimes in his notes, it's either outright said or implied that this, it's all like, this is almost like it is therapy in itself as well.
Yeah, which I tend to enjoy in some of his work, not always, but I tend to like that. And in this one, because it is a story that takes place starting in the 80s and moves through the 90s and all the different things culturally that change, that continues to happen throughout the book. A lot of surprises, things you don't expect. Main characters that, do they exit stage left? Don't they exit stage left? You never know. So it keeps you there. And it becomes ridiculous, and that popcorn blockbuster style action is always happening, but it comes with a purpose and with a consequence. So very, very good book. Give it a shot. There's various ways that you can read it digitally, the smaller trades, the deluxe editions. I don't know how easy deluxe editions are to find, or the compendium is often on sale. And it's a worthy read through. It's a worthy read of a run. This is worth the price for the page count and for the quality of story and also the consistency of look, because it's Wes Craig just as much as it's Rick Remender's work.
Yes.
Right?
And he really riffs on that 80s style in that, at least that one section, because like, it's reminiscent of David Mazzucchelli in some of it, who was the artist on Daredevil Born Again. There are some...
Yep.
The vibe of it is really close to that. So you can see the kind of style he's going for. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool book, and I think it'll really speak to. There's a absurd violence to it. It's like an absurdity, but there's also that fandom. These assassins are also like, they got fandom to them, Dungeons and Dragons and comic book shops and music shops, like all of that sort of element is mixed into the fabric of these characters. So I think it speaks to guys like us. Check it out. Nice. Deadly Class.
Excellent start. All right, my 10th favorite of last year. I don't have it. I had it in digital. I read it in digital, so I don't have it physically here to wave around. But it's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's a 6-issue series by Patrick Horvath. It's 152-page trade paperback from IDW Publishing. Came out in September, and it's been described, or it's described on the blurb, I think, as Dexter meets Richard Scarry's Busy Town. I don't remember having Richard Scarry's Busy Town books when I was a kid, so that reference was kind of lost on me. But it's a very cutesy book. So it's about Samantha Strong, who is a bear. She's a lovely bear, works in a very small village community, and she's a serial killer. Every so often, she treats herself by going into the city and killing someone, except someone starts murdering someone in her town, and her worry is that she's going to be suspect number one. But all these people are little cute animals. They're little cute animals. So the Richard Scarry reference, I did look at the artwork for Richard Scarry's Busy Town, and the art in Beneath the Trees is considerably better than that. It's beautiful artwork. Like if it wasn't for all the murders and the gutted animals, you could probably buy that for your kid, and it would be just the finest looking book. But there's a lot of bloodshed in this thing. There was a part of me when I was reading it wondering, would this work if you did it with just people? Would it be as good a story? Does it work better because it's cutesy? So it's got that kind of juxtaposition to it. But does that matter? Like, isn't that the point? Because that's the disarming nature of it. Yeah, like with Kaiju Max, because this actually was a recommendation from one of the first. Well, it was the first collector's item special I did this year, which was with Xander Cannon, who wrote and drew Kaiju Max, and that was one of his 5. It was a current read for him at the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he went like, find it hard to believe, I know, but it's a cutesy thing that's quite warped and bloody, a bit like his own series, But I had a read of it, and just it's really cool. It feels so different, and it feels like a warm fireside little book, but it's riddled with murder. So that's my first choice. Well, not my first choice. That's my 10th favorite book of the year, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, by Patrick Horvath. If you like murder and you like cuddlies, then go for it. Not furries, cuddlies. Different.
Nice. You see, that's the best part about these top 10s or these top 20s, is that we never know what we might include. I did not expect that. But at the same time, I'm not surprised, because you do like your cutesy, very violent. All right. So my number 9 is a Marvel comic. It's, I think, collecting from the 2020 series of Spider-Woman. So this is kind of a compendium. It collects all 21 issues of the run from Carla Pacheco and Perry Perez. A run that surprises me because I'm not a expert on Spider-Woman. I enjoyed the Dennis Hopeless run that has a similar collected edition format for that series that this one has, but they're very different books. They don't try to. Carla Pacheco goes more into the history of the character, getting a lot more into the spy aspect of it, Wonder Gore Mountain, calling back certain familial relationships coming back into play. So it's a nice departure from Dennis Hopeless, and that's not because the Dennis Hopeless run wasn't great. It's unique. Both of these stand alone in their uniqueness, but the Carla Pacheco and Perry Perez team throughout the book is also a very nice thing to see. So if you're a fan of somewhat Marvel era comics, we got some stuff here that you can look into that came out in 2024. The whole collection I think is very worthwhile to check out. It's a good price point again. And I mean, it's a self-contained story. You don't feel bogged down by a bunch of other things that might be happening in the Marvel universe, from what I recollect in reading it.
Yeah. Does it reference the Dennis Hopeless series?
It does enough, but not in a way that is disparaging. Like, it departs from it where she goes back to like the classic costume, but not in a way that is. It's more so like, okay, let's stand out now on our own, because if you try to copy that, you're not going to capture that same magic. Let's just tell our own story. So it has its own look, its own feel. This is very episodic, but you got family members that are thrown into the mix that you may not have known of before, but they open story possibilities in all different types of directions for Jessica Drew. I'm always about to say Jessica Jones, but Jessica Drew, I got it.
I do. I love Jessica Drew as a character. So like,
me too.
Every time you've waved those around in front of me, those two books, I've always gone, I want to get hold of them. Because I don't read much modern Marvel, but I love Spider-Woman.
They're really good. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. She's in space with Captain Marvel, who's her best friend, but I much prefer reading Captain Marvel stories in a Spider-Woman book for some reason. I don't like it the other way around.
You'd say again,
Captain Marvel, I prefer reading Captain Marvel in a
Carol.
Spider-Woman book. Yes. So she shows up in here for a storyline. There's Wonder Gore Mountain. There is something that is a tie-in with Null, I guess, from the Venom
King
tie-ins
in Black event. Yeah,
that sort of thing. But yeah, check it out. Spider-Woman's a surprising sort of, I don't want to say dark horse hit, because that would be a pun that I don't mean to intend.
Definitely don't intend that
she's
pun.
sort of that hidden gem, hint, that it's a good story and a good collection that kind of flies under the radar, but it shouldn't. So hopefully this gives it a little bit of shine and people will give it a shot and they like it.
I'm going to pick up with my number 9 for the year. Now, I don't want it to seem like I'm choosing something because I got a freebie, because I don't work that way. But the last Comic-Con I went to this year, and probably be the last Comic-Con I go to for a little while, I met Mike Perkins. He was on Captain America, he's on Swamp Thing, he's done a lot of stuff with the big two. But this is a team-up with him and Dan Jurgens. And I always have this thing when if someone gives me something, I just think, God, I'm not going to like it, am I? I'm not going to like it, and it's going to be really awkward. But he gave me a copy of the first issue of The Batman First Night. Here's the book. This is they didn't give me this. I got this myself. I was inspired enough by it to get the full collection. So it's beautiful. The Batman First Night, 3-issue Black Label series from DC Comics. It's by Jurgens and Perkins, as I said, Jurgens and Perkins. 168-page hardcover, but not like standard. It's kind of wide, kind of graphic novel size. Yeah,
it's very nice.
And what this does is it recreates the Monster Men story from Batman #1. The cowl looks interesting. So it's kind of based on the way the cowl was designed when Batman first appeared.
Right.
So he's got the same coloured gloves as well, and so that there are elements that have carried forward from that. It's almost like, what if Batman was released in 1939, but had this level of art, this level of writing, and you could get away with almost swears in this, because Jurgens technically drops an F-bomb. It doesn't actually do it, but there's technically one snuck in there. Very cleverly. Slide dog. But yeah, so Monster Men has been... It was part of post-crisis continuity. Matt Wagner did a version of it. It was a 6-issue miniseries, right. I think. But this isn't that, because it's his own thing. So that there's no connection to, what was he called? Hugo Strange or anything like that. It's a mystery. This new Bat-Man is trying to solve this mystery. So where these monster men are coming from and why high-level government people are being killed off.
Nice.
So this is him as a noob and as a detective, and it's that whole vibe. You know, when like it's introduced in the films and in modern comics when they do a new version of Batman, and it's like, who's this Batman guy? It's that, but it's set in that era. So you're kind of thinking like, if you were a kid, this is how you imagine it would be in real life. You know, so but it's got that edge and grit to it because it's Black Label.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's why also the trim
Yes.
That's a good looking book.
Really
I like
good looking
that a lot.
book. Perkins is a fantastic artist. So
that looks great.
That was a real winner for me. And I'm really hoping they do more with The Batman in the future. I don't know if they will, but I think they really should, because it works. It really works. And it'd be good to do it in these little nuggets of time, you know? Whether they pick old stories and do the same thing again and modernise them, weirdly, while retrofying them. Is retrofying a word? Probably. It is now. So it's that kind of retro, modern thing. But I would happily see more. So yeah.
Nice. I haven't seen that book, I don't think, physically yet, but I'm tempted.
Yeah, it's lovely.
From the way you've described it and the way I've read other places as well. It's been getting some pretty good critical praise. Nice. This is my third, right? Or
it's
number 7?
Your number 8.
Number 8. Okay. I'm going to go with a classic, a modern day, referencing a classic character and an IP that has bounced around from publisher to publisher and has had its time at Marvel and Dark Horse, etc., etc. It's the modern day Conan the Barbarian from Jim Zub, Titan Comics. I am not usually a Conan fan.
Me either.
I'd be insincere if I was able to say this is the greatest Conan. I wouldn't know. But Jim Zub and Rocco Della Torre, let me make sure. Roberto Della Torre are tailor-made for this character. It feels like a timeless version of Conan. I mean, I could show you guys some of the artwork in here, some of these splash pages of Roberto Della Torre's art. It feels very, very much akin to the feeling you get from John Buscema. I don't know if that's a good thing for some or if they want something different, but the book feels like everything about the way this book, when you read it, it feels like you're reading a classic Conan comic, but done modern day.
Right.
But it has just enough flowery prose, the way you would expect the classic Conan comic
like
to.
Roy Thomas era.
In the Roy Thomas era, but then it gets into the fights and the artwork is just so beautiful. And the scenes and the cityscapes of the places that Conan travels to, it's breathtaking. And to get that sort of classic comic book feel where this could be from the 60s or it could be from 2023 or 2024, it's a very refreshing sort of thing to see a classic character with a writer like Jim Zub getting his crack at someone he loves, because he's always spoken about how much he loves like the Conan character, but now getting a chance to flush out some real cool stories. And so I've read the first 12 issues that have come out for this year. And the first storyline is Roberto Della Torre. The second one is Doug Brathwaite, who does a great job. Even though you get a different artist for the next 4 stories, a perfect switch. I love Doug Brathwaite, a lot of the stuff he's done for Valiant. And then it goes back to Roberto Della Torre to continue the story. And these small little chunks, 4-issue chunks. Real classic way to tell comic book stories. If you like Conan, I've been told from Conan fans that this stuff really holds up to some of the best Conan from Conan fans. And I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say surprising because I'm not a Conan guy, but I really liked it. And just the way again, I don't have any connection to Roy Thomas and the Brian Windsor Smith or Barry Windsor Smith or the John Buscema stuff. But when you see it, when you kind of get it passes your glance, you see like these were comics that were sort of cutting edge for its time.
Sorry, I thought you said it when it passes your glands.
No, not my glands. Your
Stop
glands.
eating your comics.
Anywho, yeah, take a look at this. This is really cool. I don't know if I showed this already.
No, that looks like Buscema. He's
right?
really vibing off Buscema in that artwork, yeah. You know, it's really not, is. But you can see the inspiration.
Exactly. You know it's not, but it's paying homage in a way that isn't disrespectful. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Actually, Omega Brez just dropped a comment that says, as a huge Conan fan, I can say that Jim Zub is doing stellar work. It's a real multimedia approach that Titan is taking, with the Blackstone being the overarching backdrop to the stories in both the comics and the prose. So we're going to stay in the realm of fantasy for my number 8, which is always a surprise to me because I've never been a fantasy guy. And it's only in the last year or 2 years that I've kind of veered into that territory. And that's largely because of things like Critical Role and the like that takes more of a modern approach to it. Stuff like Rat Queens as well. So it doesn't feel like that strange sort of broken English and my magic is stronger than your magic for no apparent reason kind of stuff that always put me off. Yes, this is The Hunger in the Dusk Volume 1. It's originally 6 issues with G. Willow Wilson writing and Chris Wildgoose doing the arts. It's from IDW, once more. 168 pages, paperback. And in this world, humans are more the minority. I mean, there's been a constant war between the humans and the orcs. And the orcs are pretty much winning. So the humans are kind of at their last numbers, in this world that they're in. But they're going to have to sort their shit out and join forces because a much bigger threat has turned up called the Vanguard, and that these things risk killing everybody. Like, if they don't sort themselves out, everyone will die. So they send a representative from the orcs with the humans on a mission, and they send one of the humans with the orcs. And it's all about how these characters interact and how the cultures interact and how they learn about the wider orc culture and stuff as well. Because it's not normally orcs are just quite throwaway, and they hit you with a stick. There's no great dialogue there. But in this, it's much more interesting. They're really fleshed out characters, and there's a world being built here. And G. Willow Wilson is really good at this kind of stuff. She's good at character work, and saw her on Ms. Marvel, and we've talked about that repeatedly in the past. It may be a trilogy of minis. It's a beautiful book. I'd never seen Chris Wildgoose as an artist on anything before. It's the first time seeing his art. It's great. It really suits the feel of the book. And if you're not a fantasy person either, doesn't matter. Try this out, because this is all about character.
Nice. That's the key, right? Any genre could work.
Yeah, completely.
You've got good character building
and world building.
Yeah, don't dismiss a genre. I've done that in the past, and I've ended up liking a lot of books that weren't on my radar because I gave it a chance.
And it cost you more money.
That too.
So today, this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a rundown of our 10 most watched / listened to podcast episodes. So our most popular pod episodes this year were at number 10, our top 20 of 2023, part 1.
How fitting.
Not part 2. No one cares what was number 1. Number 9 is top 10 Mark Millar. Number 8, incoming September 2024. The rest of the year sucked. September, amazing. Number 7, the interview with Jeff Johns. Number 6, top 10 miniseries. Number 5, top 10 most wanted Image Omni / Compendium / Collector Edition chunkies. Number 4, top 10 90s X-Men. Number 3, top 10 most wanted DC Omnis. Number 2, your interview with Jim Shooter. Wow. And number 1, top 10 most wanted Marvel omnibuses. This is.
The Marvel omnibuses, people just love talking about what we still want.
Well,
it's crazy.
Part of that, I think, though, is because even if you're not going to buy them, you can at least pick out some good runs. What's a series worth sticking with?
That's a good call.
Yeah.
I like the way you think, Dave. All right.
Most don't.
Let's see how this top 20 of 2024 does in 2025. Trying to keep track of everything. What number are we at in the countdown?
It's your number 7, my dude.
So coming in today at my number 7 is a series that we mentioned in that episode with Jeff, of something that was more a book he wanted to work on instead of what everyone thought he should do. And that's Booster Gold with Dan Jurgens. And this was re-released in this nice format in 2024. It had been out before in, softcover trades, 6 issues here, 6 issues there, or some hardcovers. It was called 52 Pickup because it literally picks up after the series 52, which was a weekly comic that Jeff had worked on when it spun out and things went back to, just regular storyline, regular schedule program, if you will. Booster Gold had a series launched, and Jeff Katz, I knew it was another Jeff, I just spelled differently, and Dan Jurgens were the writing artist teams on this Booster Gold book, which is cool because Booster is a Dan Jurgens creation. Jeff Johns approaches the book and uses the character as a way to pay respects to the DC universe that had come before, where he puts Booster in these scenarios where you're going back in time and trying to make sure that you don't disrupt whatever's happened, whether it was good or bad in the timeline. Make sure things go the way they're supposed to go. And you kind of get, have you read this at all, Dave?
No, I meant to. Actually, I have the book and I meant to read it.
Okay.
Partly for inclusion in this, and I totally forgot.
Okay. All good. But the premise is basically the kind of like in the Avengers Endgame, where you're trying to make sure everything goes according to what the timeline's meant to have happen. But on the way there's another fight that you're having off screen that people don't see. Because you're in this separate time bubble, as it were. So there's a lot of moments like that with this book that are like tips of the hat to classic DC stories, but with a little spin of Booster being involved in them. Really, really fun. Really, really refreshing. I don't know how the series continues after this because Jeff gets off at issue 12, if memory serves. Right. But either way, hopefully they continue this Booster series. And this first volume did well enough that they'll print a volume 2 and see where it goes.
Volume 2 is out in April 2025.
But this volume 1, tons of fun. Booster Gold, Jeff Johns, Dan Jurgens on the art.
Beautiful. Okay. My number 7 for 2024 is going to be a tricky one to talk about in depth because it's the final book of a 3-book series, and they're relatively short books in the grand scheme of things because it's just 3 issues in a book. So it's book 3 of Friday. That's Christmas Time Is Here Again. It's an Ed Brubaker book. The art's by Marcos Martin. So this is originally a 9-issue series that was on the Panel Syndicate website, which is the site run by Brian K. Vaughan, writer of Saga. And you can kind of pay as much or as little as you want. That's how they run it. And you can read it in digital. But they've got a deal with Image where Image reproduce the books in print format. Some of them are widescreen, so a lot of them are printed widescreen. But like with this one, it's an upright. But it's a 3-book series. Here's the whole set. Oh, pick a book.
Cool.
Anyone you like.
Nice.
Was this your book? So it's, issue 7 to 9, 128 pages. It's by, Ed Brubaker and Marcos Martin. So it's a nice combination there. It's based on, I think there was, when we talked about it in another episode, I think when it was an incoming episode, it came up. The main character, Friday, comes from a small town where her and her best friend used to solve mysteries. So it references a lot of the mysteries they've solved, and it kind of shows them like these kids' book. But it's all about her coming back and how they've grown up. So this isn't for kids. This is a very adult story. The language is very adult. Some of the situations become progressively more adult, and it gets scarier and scarier. And where it takes some of those, by book 2, it starts to turn into something that's more of a horror. And then by 3, I can't spoil it, but it does what I really, really wasn't expecting at all. And I'm looking at this thing going, I could see how you've had this plan from the beginning. And it means it's worth a second read, at least. Cool. So cool. I don't know if they're going to release it in a chunkier format than this. They probably will.
They have to.
I would think they would. I mean, it's Brubaker. You can't go wrong with Brubaker books, right? But it's Marcos Martin's art on this is so cool. It's so good. It's the simplicity of it, but also like there's this real heavy detail to it. So while his characters look nice and clean and simple and it's easy to follow, there's a lot going on in these pages, you know?
Oh, I love it.
So he doesn't skimp out on that detail.
Right.
It's wonderful stuff. It's set in the snow as well, and he really uses the white panels between and uses the white as snow, and it really kind of makes it feel very claustrophobic.
Nice.
It's great stuff. Don't pass on this one. It might look a little bit weird, a little bit different, but that's what makes it great.
No, again, the creators, price of admission with just the creators is worth it. Nice.
Yeah.
I hope they put that in. That's tailor-made for a complete collection.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Has to be. Nice. I like it. All right. Put me on to something that I'll be on the lookout for now, Mr. David. My number 6, final pick for the night.
Oh, I'm a little bit sad.
Why?
Because I love doing these and we're on number 6, man.
We got a whole other one coming up. Don't you worry. We do. We got a part 2. Plug to our archives. We had the writer of this book on the show this year. That's Matthew Ehrman, talking Loving Ohio. This wasn't given to us for free. We're not promoting it because the creator came on the show. It's a good book, and it's different. it'll stand out to other things that are on the shelf. Like, it's got the horror element, it's got the small town element, it's got a little bit of it's not a biography in any way, shape, or form, but in talking to Matthew, if you listen to that episode, there is a certain influence from his own upbringing and some of the things he learned and was involved in as a child make their way into this story. It's about a kid living in a small town that is basically run by the cult that everybody is a part of, and how that kind of affects the friendships, relationships, the horrors of the town, the breaking out of that sort of mindset. And it's sort of like a horrified version of The Breakfast Club, John Hughes kind of storytelling with a monster in it. Check it out. It's the artwork. I'll give you an idea of what the art looks like inside. Very similar to the vibe that you get on the cover. So it's not terrifying art, but it's very
atmospheric,
sort of a surreal feeling to it. The tones of the pages also feel like you're looking back into someone's memory. Like, it feels like a story that takes place in another time, based on sort of the coloring and the clothes that are worn, but it's not overly bright. Like, if you notice, it's definitely colored.
It's kind of muted.
It's muted, right? Because it's teenagers are the main characters. The music of that time plays a part in the story, which I clearly like that sort of stuff. So Matthew Ehrman, check out the interview we had with him, but also, more importantly, check out Loving Ohio.
Yes.
It's a really, really strong entry in 2024. And it came out in 2024.
Yes, it did.
So
it's original as well, isn't it? It's not a mini that was collected. It's a all new graphic novel.
Exactly. And I don't see it having any sequels or any need for a sequel. Sometimes you want those type of books where you can just read a one and done 150, 160 page story and you get everything you want, like a good movie.
What I was thinking as well was that interview you did was so good with him. And what was really nice about it is that it was like you were catching all these things that obviously a lot of other interviews probably hadn't picked up on, when you were talking about it to him. And that conversation alone sold me on the book.
I hope you like it.
So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading it. Tell you what I'm loving. My number 6.
Talk to me.
See my little segue there? Did you see what I did? I weaved it.
I saw what you did.
I weaved it, dude.
That was a very nice weave.
Yeah. But what I ruined it by talking about how I weaved it. And anyway, my number 6, and the last one for tonight, is 1949. It's a trade paperback collecting the 1949 story from the Packless series by Dustin Weaver, which was an anthology series he was doing with Image Comics. So Packless was launched in like 2016 or something, and then part 1 of 1949 was in issue 5. That was in 2017, and it just disappeared. The series didn't pick up again with issue 6 till 2023. That's a hell of a wait for part 2 of a 3-part story. But this collects that whole story. So 1949 it's not a spoiler to say it's a time travel story. If you're not familiar with Dustin Weaver, actually, he has done some stuff with Jonathan Hickman, but don't hold it against him. He did the S.H.I.E.L.D. series with Jonathan Hickman, which was just stunning to look at. So that was the Marvel title with Leonardo da Vinci in it, and it was like the origins of S.H.I.E.L.D., like going way back centuries. So it's set in 1949 and in the future. And it's about someone from the future sending their mind back in time to find out who the serial killer was. He writes this series and draws it. It does get quite weird and it does get quite surreal, and you have to pay attention. So some of it is all about how what they do impacts the future. And there are moments where you're kind of going, what just happened there? Because you've got to be on it. It's not that it's confusing or they've done it badly. You've just got to pay attention. So it's a great book. It's just an absolute stunner of a book. But yeah, it's 1949, Dustin Weaver. If you look up those 3 key words, 1949 isn't a word, but go with it, you will find the book. It's not a massive read at however many pages. It's like something like 120 pages or something like that. But it's great. It really stuck with me. And I was just drawn to it purely for his art, just to see what it looked like, because it's so beautiful. And then the story just really worked for me. So, yeah, that was my number 6 for
Pleasant
the
surprises
year.
the best.
Yeah, they really are, aren't they? It's just those little cheeky punts with a P, cheeky punts that, you try something out and then you go, that was a real winner. If you're watching this and you're going, hang on a minute, why aren't you including this, or this? It's because, like we said, we're going to have another episode to follow up with our 5 to 1s. But mention in the comments what your top 10 or top 5 were.
And of course, don't forget to visit omniversecomics.guide, where you get all of our previous episodes, reading orders. Dave's reading orders are the best. And our podcasts aren't too shabby.
They're doing all right, aren't they?
Everybody that's watching on YouTube, everyone that's with us on Twitch, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week.
We will be back next week.
All right.
Part 2.
See if the sequel holds up to the first one.
Sequels
Never
normally
does,
did, don't
but
they?
this one will. This one will.
This is going to be our empire.
This is Godfather Part 2 coming up. All right, Dave.
All right.